Honorable Minister Yusuf Murangwa, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, and Chair of the Government of Rwanda UN Joint Steering Committee, Major General Murasira, Minister for Minema, distinguished friends from the development and diplomatic communities, my dear colleagues, heads of agencies, representatives of UN agencies, government, partners, colleagues from private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Moramuse. Honorable Minister, on behalf of the UN system, it's a real pleasure to co-chair our first Joint Steering Committee meeting together and to welcome all of us to this moment. It's a crucial moment for us to reflect on how far we've come, the journey we've walked in the last 1 year. UN government and our partners, using the frame of UN contribution to national development, what we've achieved, but then what's our vision for the way ahead. The vision is articulated in NST2. But what's our strategic and collective offer to that vision? That's the strategic and collective offer we're going to discuss today. The UN Cooperation Framework, and through the UN Cooperation Framework, the country program documents and the country program strategies of our agencies. We will discuss those for 4 agencies today only, because the executive boards are meeting in February. And for the others, as their cycle gets completed and they develop their own strategies, the steering committee will get to discuss them as well. So today's meeting is of importance, 2 main reasons. One, it's actually the transition point now for us from current cooperation framework to a new one. Just as we've now witnessed the transition from NST1 to NST2, now we'll be talking about the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2025 to 2029, no longer the 2024. And then an opportunity also to be updated on what we've done together in the last 1 year and what our agencies are planning to do to contribute to the cooperation framework. Minister, I want to testify that the new cooperation framework, the new strategies for the agencies are fully aligned to the UN cooperation framework as required by internal protocols, but also fully aligned to NSC2 to going ahead. And that reflection just captures what our role is as a UN. It's an accompanying role. The leadership and ownership is with national actors and institutions. Our job is to stand behind you and demonstrate what we contribute together with our partners who support our work to this national agenda. So our role as a steering committee, the word steering, it's certainly from Old English. Don't ask me what century it was, but it's steer, which means rudder or to guide. And actually has a much older history, a Proto-Germanic history, which is steuras, meaning controlling the direction of a ship. So that's steering and that control. But of course, it evolved to directing or guiding something, whether it's a vehicle, abstract process, or an organizational effort. So our role here is no small one. It's to steer the direction of travel for the UN system, to reassure ourselves through the various senior counterparts and participants from government that there's full alignment with the national development priorities, national development agenda, but that whatever we bring to the table relates to the socio-economic transformation that Rwanda wants to see happen. And so, together with our partners who are part of that steering committee, it's not a rubber stamp role. It's a role that requires you to interrogate, to question, just so that we are sure we have the results. And then in preparation for this meeting, of course, many consultations have already taken place, demonstrating the specificities of this alignment to ensure that when we come here today, we are fully satisfied about what the UN system will bring to the table over the next 5 years. And then, of course, it's also a checking in. At last December steering committee, we agreed a number of recommendations. We made some decision points. How well have they been implemented? Anything else that's outstanding that we need to take forward? And then we will present this new cooperation framework. So in UN speak, it's called the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. For myself and my colleagues in the UN country team, it is our partnership document. For us, it's more of a partnership document because we recognize that no one institution can do it alone. Same way government is reaching out to private sector, community groups, government wants all stakeholders on board. Same. It's not just about the intellectual output or the financial output, but the complementarities and the synergies between what we do and what our partners do is what Rwanda wants to see happen. So, Honorable Ministers, you will see a more intentional effort on the part of the UN system to work differently together with different partners, with civil society, community groups in the front line of the response, and UN focusing more on the more strategic, persistent issues and using its platforms to mobilize all the other actors, mobilize financial institutions to help finance the national development agenda through NSC2. And so we, obviously, one of the critical calling cards of the UN system is how do you ensure that everybody is invested in their own national development? Is by making sure they're not left behind. So a number of our initiatives focus on creating that pathway so that those who are at risk of being left behind are able to get into the mix where everybody else then can compete and leverage the amazing opportunity that Rwanda offers its citizens. So we come with a budget figure of about $1 billion, both contributions that our agencies already have certified and partnerships we hope to leverage to be able to strengthen the work towards implementation of Rwanda's national development agenda. To get ourselves ready for this process, we undertook what we call a UN country team configuration. The UN country team configuration, this is new for the UN system as part of the reform. Each agency intentionally assesses itself, its resource envelope, its possibilities for new resources, but its staffing and the quality of its staffing, and then makes a commitment in writing about what it will bring to the table. So, like when government said to me, we need new thinking on affordable financing. It allowed me, because of this commitment, to say to UN Habitat, I need an analytics, I need top-notch policy advisory, I want to present the evidence to government. And within 8 weeks, we presented something to government. That's the new UN system. So, Minister, when you say we have a big persistent problem, and Mr. RC, I need the UN system to help us with the thinking, I go to the agency responsible, or I go to a group of agencies, appoint a focal person, and say, please get it done. Government requires this new approach to thinking, and then we can present to you. It's because of this configuration. We are committing that in our areas of mandate, in our areas of focus, the agencies will deploy their assets and capacities, and it is immaterial if those capacities are not resident in Rwanda. The job of the head of agency is to help us respond to the needs and desires of the government. And then the last element for today is to review the country program document and strategies for UNICEF, UNDP, UN Fund for Population Activities, and WFP, which will be implemented over the same lifespan. So as we convene this steering committee meeting then, let us reflect on our shared journey and the milestones we've achieved. But I am usually on what's left undone than on the progress. Because the progress we can celebrate. But I always like to focus on what's left undone and what do we need to do differently. And then make a pivotal transformation or transition from our current cooperation framework to the new cooperation framework starting January 1, 2025. Honorable Minister, let me use this opportunity to commend and congratulate the government of Rwanda for this commitment on refugee integration, this determination to transit from refugee camps into integrated settlements. I think it's a clear demonstration of government's commitment to ensuring that no one is left behind. So fortunately, General Murasira is here. So General, I'd like to commit to the UN system through our colleagues in the High Commissioner for Refugees that we would deploy the capacities and the assets necessary to support your ministry in developing a roadmap for this and to integrating this into the national planning, but also the sector strategies for implementation. Ministers, I want to commit on behalf of my colleagues our continuing commitment in this journey to socio-economic transformation in Rwanda. Each and every one of us present here today who carry a different color of passport, we want to say to you, Minister, we are all Rwandan. Barakoze cyane.